Anja Hazekamp, I've invited you to talk a little bit about the TTIP from a total different aspect, point of view than it's normally talked about, where we are talking about judges and laws and whatsoever and what we could benefit in jobs. And the reason why I'm taking you is, of course, because of the situation of animals when it comes to TTIP. We have an what shall I call it, agreement, a program called REACH, whereby it's set at least to avoid the kind of research which somebody says needs animals. But what is your opinion about the situation of animals when it comes to TTIP?
Well, in my opinion, TTIP is very bad news for animal welfare in general. Not only for animals, by the way, also for humans, because
let's try in this
yes,
context.
because it's undermining. TTIP undermines every democratic process we have in Europe, but also it threatens the standards we have in Europe regarding environmental protection, animal welfare, consumers protection, for instance, the labeling issues for cloned animals.
For everything, actually.
For everything, actually. And when you look at REACH, you see that in the European Union we try to minimize the number of animals used in experiments. And in the United States they are not so progressive as we are here. And the problem is that due to the TTIP, the businesses, the companies, not only almost all companies, so including the cosmetics industry, they have more influence than the national parliaments or the European Parliament. So that's a real big point of concern.
Already when I had the privilege to interview a general director of World Trade Organization, and I asked him about the situation of animal welfare there, he said, oops, he said, that's a very delicate question, because we are getting nowhere within the WTO, the WTO. Will we get anywhere within the Union when it comes to acting somehow towards the US and saying you have to improve animal welfare?
Well, we could. If we really want it, we could. But what we see up to now is that the European Commission has, when it comes to animal welfare, they think animal welfare is important, but when they hear the sound of money, animal welfare is no longer an issue. You see that animal welfare, environmental protection, everything is becoming less important than money.
Who are those who are lobbying the Commission in the way that they feel they are rightly throwing away animal welfare?
Well, there is a lot of protest from all kinds of people. There are lobbyists from multinationals and big companies that say we have to gain jobs, we have to maintain growth, we have to earn more money. And everything else, including animal welfare, but also including human rights, consumer protection, everything is becoming less important. And on the other hand, you see that the European citizens get more and more concerned. They learn more and more about the trade agreement with the United States. And until now, there are over 2.3 million citizens that already let the European Parliament or the Commission know that they have real concerns regarding animal welfare and environmental protection. Last week we got a letter from more than almost 500 NGOs that came from all kinds of different directions, including animal welfare organizations, that say we have to stop TTIP, and especially we have to stop with the the state dispute settlement that gives businesses more power than governments.
You're coming from the Netherlands. Do you foresee that the TTIP will come to a vote in the Netherlands Parliament?
No, I think what we saw here last week, for instance, when we voted about the initiative report on the TTIP negotiations, we saw that even there, where the European Parliament said we have to have more influence on the process and the negotiation, and we have to make sure that the European standards are protected, we saw that the European Commission and even the President of the European Parliament, they abused their powers to prevent the European Parliament to vote against the TTIP. There were over 100 amendments and that were addressed, and only 5 of them got adopted. All the other things, every concern regarding cloned animals, animal welfare, everything was put aside.
So what's your hope?
Well, my hope is that the European citizens and all NGOs and almost everyone in Europe, because it concerns everyone, should go demonstrate, write letters, protest against the TTIP and the investor-state dispute settlement, because it's really a big threat to all of us, to our rights, to the rights of the animals, and it will lead to nowhere. So people should really raise their voice, and I expect massive protests and demonstrations against the TTIP to protect our animals.